Living in the present, a very popular topic in a lot of so-called spiritual circles. It's very popular because everybody realizes that they are not able to focus on a job at hand. Their mind runs to the past or to the future. Therefore, in this particular topic, living in the present, everybody sees some connection, some relevance. Everybody feels they relate to it. Even those with utterly materialistic ambitions want to live in the present, meaning when they are doing something, they want to be fully in that job. They want to have maximum mental concentration. But in this session of the webinar, we are going to examine this theme on quite a higher plane. In fact, as we examine this topic, we will discover that a lot of popularity of this topic is more because of misunderstanding than because of understanding the topic. People think that it is to become more effective in every possible way. In other words, people look at this living in the present as having the potential for self-improvement. But we will examine and we will try to show that living in the present is the antithesis of self-improvement. On higher Vedanta, you will find self-improvement is not a much respected idea. Some of you may wonder why it is so. That is where we have to be careful. Self-improvement implies the self remains I, as separate from somebody else. I am not as smart as he is. I must improve myself and get as smart as he is. That is the idea of self-improvement. If you examine the psychology of self-improvement, there is always the attachment to one's own self-worth. It's understandable. We don't condemn it. Please don't take Vedanta as looking down at people. Vedanta is very sympathetic to the vast majority of people who are interested in getting better. I want to be a better student. I want to be a better father. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better teacher, and so on. We sympathize with that sentiment. But what is involved in really getting near a certain freedom, certain spontaneous living, certain way of living where there is great happiness, great joy, is when we put aside the self. This again can be a bit confusing. When I say put aside the self is not a potato or a brick or something that you put aside. You are the self. You have such strong idea of who you are. And how do you put that idea aside? Therefore, this topic needs to be examined. Along with the main title, Living in the Present, we also provided a second heading, Letting go of the past and the future is not easy. Once more, beginners, novices, those who have no clear grasp of finer philosophy would connect this to willpower. They take up a job and say to themselves, I am going to not think about the past. sankalp. I'm not going to let my mind go to tomorrow. I am totally here now. So roll up your sleeves. That is the exercise of willpower. And this willpower has serious limitations. You may do a particular job very well, but after that what? After you do a job very well, suppose you are not recognized, your heart sinks. You get hurt. You say, I worked so hard, but these people do not value my good work. My hard work is not appreciated. So you live in misery. Though you performed better than ever before, so there was self-improvement, but sorrow continued to be your companion. So it's not a matter of willing. With due respect to will, it does something. Will is not a total waste, but the will or willpower doesn't deliver the goods when you are actually interested in letting go of all burden. You want to live in love, you want to live in joy, you want to live in true fearlessness, no fear of any kind. That is not possible through will. So how is it so, or why is it so? That is where we would connect at this point now this matter of living in the present with a psychological theme called becoming. Sometimes we put it as becoming, some other time we talk of it as wanting to become. When the separate self is up and active in our consciousness, which means a number of thoughts are working continuously to make us feel, I am so and so, and I got to go there, I got to reach there, I got to become somebody, I'm lagging behind. You know, even those who are successful then put some other target. I have been very successful, but I won't stop till I reach an even higher destination. So when they think of a higher goal and they imagine their own ability to be of a certain level, all that is by itself fine, but examine, be careful and see it very carefully. There is hardly any man on the earth who goes about the pursuit of a goal without comparing himself with somebody else. I want to break the record of that guy from another country maybe. I want to set a new record. My name should come there on that board, on that list, and so on. Comparison is promoted by the society. Comparison and competition. They give very nice adjectives. They will say, you know, we have healthy competition. Are you sure? We ask a question. You have comfortably labeled it as healthy competition. By labeling it like that, it doesn't become healthy in itself. Please examine. So, what is healthy competition? When there is no jealousy, when there is no heartburn if somebody else gets ahead of us, when there is no insecurity, when somebody else is getting more attention from people. So if we are trying to work better than we did before, we want to do something with greater skill, with absolutely No heartburn about our probably not coming first and so on. That would be healthy. But there is seldom a person who strives without certain amount of comparison. It is made more evident when some criticism comes our way. How many of us like criticism? How many of us leave alone liking? How many of us are at peace with criticism? If 100 people praise us, imagine 100 people praise us and one person makes a face and criticizes us. That night when we go to bed, we are not going to remember the 100 people who praised us. We remember the one guy who found fault with us, and we grind our teeth. What business did he have to talk like that about us? And so on. That shows that there is the self operating. So man wants to become, everybody wants to become somebody. Everybody burns with a certain inner dissatisfaction. I haven't reached where I had to reach, and so on. So technically, meaning in the language of deeper Vedanta, we would say, hey, rather than being pure awareness, you have allowed thoughts to take you on a roller coaster ride. Thoughts are making you feel good at times, then they dump you down. Thoughts make you feel so low. So, this wanting to become, please look at your own mind, your own consciousness. There is this problem of wanting to become. Wherever you go to Himalayas and wear orange robes. You think this wanting to become will leave you? After a couple of days, you find there may be another person in orange robes over there in another cottage, and more people are going there. And you wonder, why are more people going there? Why is nobody coming here? I want to become as popular as that monk, that sadhu. Such thoughts come because it's an old conditioning. Therefore, friends, in order to be in the present, there is a need for our having to be very aware of these thoughts arising. It is not in willing to stay in the present, not in resolving to stay in the present, but it is by noticing not only the movement of thought to past and future, but also the motive of that. Why did thought go to the past? Why is it embracing an old regret? Or why is thought on another occasion having a fancy ride into the future, building castles in air? Why is thought relishing that kind of ego trip? So there are some beliefs, there are some old investments. Emotionally, intellectually, you and I would have invested in a certain image, and we are actually chasing that image. We want to fit into that image which we have adored. Therefore, psychological becoming is connected with the mind going to the past and to the future. When we see through this game that the mind is playing, and what is more, we see that this idea of becoming is unwarranted. We will become something good if we are living rightly. Why should we worry about becoming famous, becoming rich, and so on? Most so-called motivational workshops, self-development workshops, tell us Dream big and pursue your dream and stop not till your goal is reached, and 100 such things. So we get a shot in the arm, as they say in American English. Shot means injection. So you get an injection in the arm which helps you, work with more energy. A shot in the arm. So people attend all those workshops, but it's not easy to bring about a radical change inside oneself. I must admit, some of those workshops may work very well for some people. After learning some new habits and some new skills, they may in fact succeed better in their profession. They may in fact improve some of their relationships. But we must say that while all those benefits are good, we don't have anything against them. It is not really a deep change. They or such benefits in due course of time die away. Just like when we buy something new, it gives us great pleasure. You buy the latest iPhone 10 or 11 or something and then show to your friends, see this new feature. This is what I always wanted, and this model has that feature. Ah, you are happy. The friends look at you with envy. That makes you more happy, and the game goes on. But the same iPhone 11 or whatever down the road doesn't mean much to you at all. You know that it's a good piece, but it doesn't make your days, filled with joy and so on. Objects and various relationships are like that. Well-managed relationships are definitely better than ill-managed relationships. Just like if we are physically fit, it's definitely better than having stomach ache or leg pain and so on. But true happiness in life is much more than being physically fit. Being physically fit could be one dimension, one aspect. So let's examine what goes into living in the present. We have slowly opened up the topic. When there is intelligence operating more than will, that intelligence shows to us how we are falling into our own trappings. Then we stay clear of them. When we say living in the present, and when we talk about letting go of the past and the future, obviously we are mentioning Kala, time. I once read an interesting anecdote, inspiring really, where Papa Ramadas of Kanjangad in Kerala, not far from Mangalore of Karnataka, this Papa Ramadas and another Mahatma, probably Anandamayima, they were going in a car to some function, and probably they were a bit late. On the way, twice or thrice, Papa, who is regarded by many of us as enlightened, so Papa Ramdas looked at his watch 2 or 3 times, and Ma Anandamayi, like a loving sister, said to him, Ram or Ramdas, so you still are in time, that is caught within time. But Ramdas, being someone who had completely surrendered to Ram, to God, and he was free from ego, did not get embarrassed or did not get shaken. He just smiled and said to Ma Anandamayi, Ramdas is in time as well as out of time. Ha ha, he laughed, it seems. So this is very thought-provoking. Functionally, we could be aware of time, whether we are late or we have come before time to some program and so on. But internally, a certain judgmental process I am not good. I need to improve. I am nowhere. I am this, I am that. That noise doesn't arise in intelligent living. And intelligence is not the product of willpower. Intelligence comes through intelligence only. Therefore, the Vedanta on its part talks about certain state of consciousness which is, in a figurative language, the ruler over past, present and future. In the Kathopanishad, in the second chapter, the first Valli, we have a mantra. The fifth mantra goes like this. The fifth mantra says, Ya imam madvadam veda atmanam jivamantikat ishanam bhuta bhavyasya natato vijugupsate. See, bhuta means the past, bhavya means the future. Ishanaha, this pure state of consciousness is a ruler over the past and the future. I'm raising my voice because here it is raining behind my window. I don't know whether you can hear that sound, but I get a feeling my volume may not be enough. So I raised my voice a little bit. Ishanam bhuta bhavyasya. Such lines, dear friends, have so much food for thought. Sometimes we just pass over these mantras without paying much attention. Really, what does it mean to be the ruler over past and future? It implies that it is above the ordinary ego. Or why ordinary? Above ego. The ego and time, psychological time, are like the two sides of the same coin. Where there is the psychological time, I use the adjective psychological because we never blame the clock. If the clock is ticking away, if the sun is rising and the sun is setting, what problem do we have with it? The problem we have is when in our mind we feel, my God, I am already 72 and people who are 20 years younger than me have achieved so much. Somebody thinks, whether somebody is 72 or the reverse of it, 27, man always, man being, man or woman, human being, man is always carrying thoughts of, I am not yet there, and look, he has gone there and she has reached there. Comparison, and then jealousy, then regret, then the bad mood, then feeling low one fine morning, saying, I'm not in good spirits today. Examine why all that happens. It is when Bhuta, the past, and Bhavya, the future, through their long arms, catch hold of us. Catch hold of us by the neck as though and lift us up and we feel miserable. Whereas we distinctly remember a mistake that we might have made in the past, but without allowing that memory to create an unfavorable self in us, with total objectivity. Last time that was the mistake I made, I will be careful now. This is understandable. But when I say, I made that mistake last time, what a terrible, I made a fool of myself and oh my God, people laughed at me and oh, like that you relive a certain defeat, then the self is given as though a new lease of life. In 14th chapter of Geetā, we have Gunatita, and there also it is said, Udasina vadasino gunairyo na vichalyate. The old mind brings forth thoughts that we have lagged behind, or sometimes pride also. We have achieved so much in 10 days, others need 10 months to do this much. You know that? Like that, we feel puffed up with pride. So, both these are feeding the self, feeling low or feeling high, feeling less than somebody or feeling more than someone. So, this self evaluation, this labeling, this kind of putting a periphery, a circumference, and saying, I am this much, the other is this much. This is all mischief of thought. Vedanta uncompromisingly says, you are pure awareness, she is pure awareness, he is pure awareness, everyone is the same Brahma. Then personalities have certain strengths and shortcomings at a given moment. To identify with the personality and say, I am low, is right away an error. Therefore, living in attention, living in gentle awareness is a great healing balm. It is the best ointment that we can apply to our wounded mind. Our psyche is wounded, injured. Our psyche is demanding nursing. Our psyche actually needs a lot of healing touch. But the best healing touch is from ourselves. When we hold or we bear our hurt gently. What do we mean by bearing our own hurt gently? Normally, when we are handling some sense of hurt, we actually make it go from bad to worse by tinkering with it. We get a sense of being hurt and we start grinding our teeth. It was that person who is responsible for all this. And what hurts me most is the comment made by this lady or that man. So figures and pictures and images of people, and of course some lapses on our own part also rise, and we breathe new life into all of them. We don't need Shakespeare or Kalidasa for the best drama to take place. The best drama is taking place day in and day out in our own mind because of spiritual ignorance. In spiritual maturity, we remain gently aware, and that is what Geetā calls udasina. Just as a mature and loving father or grandfather looks at the quarrel of sons, daughters, grandsons, granddaughters, etc., and if this grandfather is truly very mature, then he doesn't take sides, nor does he condemn anyone, nor does he say, don't disturb me, I have seen enough of these things, you manage on your own. Neither escapes nor gets entangled, just looks at all, listens to all of them, and reflects on it, and with no bias, probably comes out with a solution. This is an analogy. Pure awareness is like that. In gentle awareness, varieties of thoughts, varieties of justifications or revengeful thoughts, all kinds of emotions arise, right? The gentle awareness, like the grandfather who is very mature, looks at all of them and yes, yes, yes. Fine, fine, fine. That's understandable, but hold on. Don't get more agitated. And that is why I called it the healing balm. Therefore, to conclude my presentation for now, this living in the present is really nothing to do with willpower, but it is a matter of intelligent self-observation, then we don't decide to live in the present, but living in the present happens. We don't really roll up our sleeves and say, I'll drive away the past thoughts, etc. That is all military language, with due respect to the military and the police people whom we need. But in this inner journey, it's different game altogether. As they say, it's a different ball game. So it's not about rolling up our sleeves and saying, I'm not going to think of yesterday's and bygone time. No, 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 hold on. That anger in itself needs to be examined. Why are you angry? With whom are you angry? Be aware and see that this desire to become somebody, desire to fit into a particular image is causing certain frustration in you. Be aware, be yourself, accept others too as they are, and then objectively, for particular purposes, certain changes are needed in others, in yourself. I want to clarify that. When we say be yourself, it doesn't mean don't care for anybody, just be yourself. Once I was in an ashram somewhere, and an old couple entered, and I knew them. And the husband entered first. So I was very happy to see them. After many days, they had come to the ashram. I got up from the sofa where I was sitting and said, "Oh, Rao." The husband's name was Rao. "Hari Om, please come." Loudly I said. Then Rao made a gesture. Soft, slow, slow, slow. I became a bit silent. Then he whispered before me. Behind me, my wife is entering. Sorry to tell you, she is a bit mentally disturbed. She's not been well mentally. Therefore, it's nice of you to welcome us with so much of warmth, but with her, speak a bit softly. Immediately I understood. In fact, I regretted my exuberance without checking how they are. Anyhow, so afterwards I spoke very softly, very little, tried to listen more to that lady, old lady. And of course, Mr. Rao was so true, so right. The lady had a frightened face. Something was on her mind, and she was very worried, agitated about her health, or maybe about her children's matters or whatever. And actually it was a medical case. She was a medical case. So be yourself doesn't mean behave the way you like. As required, you may have to change your ways, but essentially you don't want to imitate somebody else. Imitating, becoming somebody else, messes up things. Being yourself, and out of intelligent observation of situations, make necessary changes, adapt to the situation. But basically, God has made you in a certain way, and that is beautiful by itself. So all these are interconnected, and that is how living in the present comes about. Living in the present cannot be dealt with in a compartmentalized manner. It's not a compartmentalized topic. It is highly interconnected with self-inquiry, self-observation, awareness, with broad-mindedness, with sensitivity, with kindness, with compassion. All these are interconnected. They come together to bring forth the fragrance of living in the present. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So let's see. Somebody might have raised. And oh, more and more people these days choose to ask text questions. So we have Ashok Kulkarni from Goa. Question asked by writing is it good to convince when we are insulted again and again to clarify our position? Yeah. Oh yeah, all these are part of communication, but we must go on refining our communication. Yeah. So when we are insulted, we may tell the other party, hey, look, this is the third time you are saying this about me. What is going on? So we may engage them in a dialogue. But the point is, even as we are clarifying our position, we must keep a watch on certain hidden motives and what I call the foul smell of the wounded ego. Sometimes, we get so wounded, the other person says sorry, but we want to take, as the idiom goes, that pound of flesh. I want to take my pound of flesh. So even though he apologizes, sincerely apologizes, I may be riding on a high wave of anger. So those are the things we need to especially notice. But otherwise, living in gentle awareness does not mean we don't react, we don't respond. It does not mean we become doormat and allow anybody to do anything. But this gentle awareness does something to us that the best way I may express it is, we, even in that act of convincing, using the word that you have raised, there is a greater maturity. Even our enemies would appreciate, wow, though he held me by the collar, I appreciate the point he made. That way they would talk. So it is all about being more aware of our thought, word, and deed. Then certain quality change takes place. We have Sundar Rajan. How do we live in the just jumped? Yeah. How do we live in the present without quietening the thoughts? If quietening thoughts is needed, then would it be the same as saying living in the present is the same as living while performing Atma Vichara continuously? Is the same as what you used to say, looking at our thoughts without rewaj, and so on. I do agree that these things do come together, but we must understand what quietening of thoughts is. There are certain practices where we quieten thoughts without understanding them. I get a letter, let us say. I guess in India tomorrow post offices are opening in green zones, I believe. Maybe green and orange, I don't know. Anyway, I get a letter, let us say, and I see who has sent this letter. And I see a name on the sender's corner. Imagine this person had written nasty letters to me several times. So if I now say I don't want to lose my peace of mind and I put below my pillow, and my wife says to me, you didn't open the letter. I don't want to open that letter today. Another day I'll open, and so on. That doesn't take you anywhere. I'm not saying you should hurry opening that letter. But if not today, tomorrow you will have to open that letter and see what that guy has said. So I'm giving this as an analogy. If thoughts are just quietened, Ramana Maharshi talks about quietening thoughts through breath observation. In Upadesha Sara, he talks about prana bandhanat liyate manaha. The mind becomes quiet. But then he hastens to add, just because the mind has become quiet, the root cause has not been tackled, because along with all its filth the mind has become quiet, subsided. So we need to cleanse our mind. So on a practical front, I would say you and I need to balance both these. Just as when we are unwell and the let's say headache is unbearable, we say to the doctor, "Yes, splitting headache, give me something whereby I get sleep." The doctor says this only will remove the symptoms, it won't remove the root cause. We may say with folded hands, "Yes, doctor, I know, but I badly need some medicine whereby the symptoms subside." Likewise, quieting thoughts is like suppressing the symptoms. Inquiry, face the thought and look at the structure, look at the error in that thought, look at the erroneous programming there, or look at a certain false belief, look at a certain bias or prejudice in that thought. By your seeing that this is a prejudiced thought, something happens to thought. Thought gets transformed. So there is one thing called just quietening, temporary relief, which is also valuable at times. But another for lasting benefits, we educate ourselves and take the impurity away. Therefore, I agree with you. It is looking at thoughts without rivaj. Rivaj means resist, indulge, verbalize, analyze, judge, and so on. But we need to see the two processes, quietening and inquiring. Inquiring goes to deeper levels and brings about deeper transformation. So next question is by Ram Nidumolu. When you say be yourself, what is the self one should be? If it is the highest self, then we are all the same in nature. If it is the ego self, then we are all different. Yeah. So when we say be yourself, we do not mean the highest self. All are the same, as the questioner has rightly said. But then when we say be yourself, we do not mean the ego self either. Because the ego self, the ego in us carries prejudice, carries hurt, pride, or some prestige, revenge, many things. Whereas be yourself means without all those, we have a certain personality type. Some of us are slow, some of us are fast, some of us are timid, shy, some of us are very aggressive. Some of us have certain allergies. Some of us have, even with respect to food, not that we like or dislike some food, but some food doesn't agree with us. Whereas somebody else can eat any amount of that food and no problem. So it is neither the ego, which is full of objectionable things, nor the pure self, which is nirguna nirakara. In between, we do have what is called a unique personality. Some of us are good in maths, some of us are good in arts, right? Some of us are good in languages, and we are not at all, Once I got a marriage invitation, I'm good in proofreading. I just checked all the spelling and put it aside and did not realize that next morning was the marriage. I missed the marriage. We had to see actually what is this invitation about. So that's okay for humor. What is meant is neither the ego nor the pure self, but the God-given personality, which is a collection of skills and traits and so on, which are not adharmic. The ego is adharmic, whereas this personality is not adharmic, because different personalities are needed for a show to go on. Society needs people of different kinds. My own sibling may be wonderful in sports, and I, um, I could never score more than 10 in cricket, let us say. And my brother century, and we went on to become a player at a level, if not test player, etc. So that's okay. If I don't score a lot of runs in cricket, there is no adharma there. You see. So the ego is the repository of many objectionable problems, objectionable things. In relationships, it causes problems. So it is recognize how you are made in terms of skills and tastes and agreeabilities and such things, and be yourself. Ashok Kulkarni again asks, how can one overcome insecurity? Really speaking, this can be dealt with on different levels, and I, as a Vedantin, generally go for a certain higher level, and I believe the higher level includes lower levels, not the other way around. If you are picking up some technique to overcome insecurity on a lower level, it may help in one situation, but it won't help you somewhere else. But the higher level is something which accommodates even lower techniques too. Now, what is that higher level I am talking of? Let me tell you. Insecurity on the higher, call it deeper level. Insecurity is because of our attachment to an image of ourselves. We are very attached to prestige. We are very attached to how we are looked at by people, how people talk about us. And we are, society conditions us. Even though I'm explaining all this, I don't claim that I'm free from it. Even in my mind, though I took sannyas some 30 years ago, even now, certain thoughts of I am from such and such family. My grandfather was like that. My mother was like this, etc. They do rise. So we have an image of how we are, and if some situation shakes that image, we are filled with insecurity. So we call this psychological insecurity. And now comes the question, how can we overcome? The simple answer is by again and again taking recourse to or resorting to broad angles of view. I may be from a very prestigious family. I'm not talking of myself here, any one of us. But in some situation, situation is such that I have to join everybody, common man, stand in a queue, and I'm not known over there. That officer over there, that doctor over there, that engineer over there, that official may treat me just like anybody else. Now, I overcome my insecurity by looking at the broader picture. Yeah, I am from a prestigious family, but here now I won't get any special treatment. So let me also remember, in spite of all my background, first of all, I am a human being. My blood also is red, and the beggar's blood also is red. In this way, some angles of view which are very broad, in their nature. So broad-mindedness, seeing the larger picture, gives to us a certain inner relaxation, not irresponsibility. We are responsible, but we will be able to relax. Something goes wrong, we will be able to take it in our stride. So I complete my answer in one sentence. On a higher plane, you overcome insecurity by letting go of your attachment to an image. Then you experience flexibility. You move freely. If you are honored, fine. If you are not honored, people have neglected you, fine. You smile and move on. That kind of. Now you have Andy Gunty. Is this a new person? There used to be A.R. Gunty. Oh, A for Andy maybe. Okay, among the four components, Mana, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara of Antakarana, is Manas the source of emotions? Source, or you may say Manas is emotions. Emotions make, Manas. Decisions, values, beliefs make Buddhi. Emotions, doubt, oscillation, they make mind. Memories make Chitta, and sense of doership makes Ahankara. So source is all right, I wouldn't say no, but a better word perhaps is Manas is the storehouse. Manas is the summation of emotions. Yes, Manas and emotions go together. Let me see if there is. Meanwhile, if somebody wishes to voice, I should take note of it.
Sheshadriji.
Sheshadri has raised his hand.
Yes, Swami.
Ah, right. So I unmute his microphone. Yes, yes, sir.
Pranam Swamiji, it was a fascinating talk as always. Looking at the regrets, as a human being, let's say I have 100 regrets. Some of them were circumstantial and I messed up and I just reason it out. But there may be one or two major regrets, which like a gramophone record that has scratch, it keeps coming up and again and again. Yes, the 99 are regrets. I'm willing to just wish them away. So this is like a weed that no matter how much pesticide I put, it keeps popping up. And then an analysis reveals that the cause of it is because at that level of maturity, I did what I did, maybe the circumstances and people around. But today I've moved on in life and come to a different level of maturity. And my self-image today of myself is very different. So when I look at that incident, which was based on a lower level of maturity, it goes very, very against my current self-image. And that is where it really, really hurts, that what a fool I've been. But that is a different data point or a reference data compared to where I am. So this is where if you can give some prescription of how to get rid of that central regret, it might help you.
Oh yeah, there are many ways. And don't think you are alone. A lot of us are in the same boat. And hardly anyone has had a smooth life. All of us have made terrible mistakes. So coming to how to handle it, see, on one hand, when our mind goes back to that time when we made a big mistake, we feel so sad. Why did I do that? How foolish I was. But look at the same matter from another angle of view. I must celebrate that I am no more making those mistakes. I am no more, caught in that false belief or false outlook. If such a situation were to arise now again, I would not do what I did those 20 years ago or 15 years ago, or whatever. Therefore, there is a reason for us to celebrate that we have changed at last. Whereas the earlier approach was we found a reason to cry over, cry over the spilled milk, as they say. So that's one thing. Another is, after all, it is these memories that have gained a certain momentum. So we have to reduce the momentum. That is where japa tapa help. Fix your mind in God and so on. And a third thing is, like I said in my answer to the earlier question, insecurity. So just as attachment to image is the cause of insecurity, attachment to image is the cause of this endless regret also. Like I gave the example earlier, just an example it was, not talking about any particular man or myself. If somebody is very attached to one's family background, and somehow it has gone deep into him that I happen to be from the prestigious family. My great grandfather was in the court of, my favorite example. He was a senior officer in Maharaja of Mysore's court or something. I am the great grandson of that guy, and so on. If it has gone so deep and I'm always clinging to that image, against that backdrop, what happened some 20 years ago becomes 10 times or 100 times more unacceptable. Anybody else falls like that, it's okay. But me, the great grandson of Diwan of Mysore, could not happen, could not do it. Now, see, what happened is I'm terribly attached to a particular mental picture. That is how I should have been, but this is how I was. Let go of that idea of how I should have been. Who says you should have been this or should have been that? In fact, if you scratch the surface, extending this example a little more, in every so-called great family, there have been people who faltered, who fell, who did terrible things. Royal family of England, if you see, not recent times Prince Charles or X or Y, you go 3 generations, 4 generations, 10 generations back, the royal family of England, you have certain kings, certain princes who did, uh, inexcusable things. Some of them had to abdicate the crown because of their being unable to, rise up to expectations of people. So it is nothing but attachment to an image. When you are attached to an image, you lose your objectivity. When you are looking at everything, holding all of them gently in your consciousness, yes, there is a certain pain, that certain things that should not have happened in my life so many years ago, we feel, but that little pain is okay. We don't get carried away by that. Therefore, I once more answer here, put it in the larger picture, hold those memories gently and move on, but gather more strength by surrender, by various practices. All the yogas are meant to give us greater inner strength to do these advanced operations. Otherwise, we will be struggling with mere will. Intelligence doesn't operate. When we have purified our mind by some japa, puja, and so on, the intelligence begins to operate. That's how I look at it. Not easy, sir. So life is not easy anyhow. Any text question left out?
Yes.
Harihara is here. I'll take the question by Mr. Harihara. Swamiji, instead of living in the present, we tend to leave the present. Please suggest tips to stay in the present. Yeah. So there are two things. The lower approach to stay in the present is to use will, decision. You may not believe, even I have a tendency, I have a lot of interests, if like many of you. So my mind also wanders. I begin some work, then my eyes fall upon some book in the shelf. I say, oh, I should read that, and I leave and go there. So what I do these days, when I start a certain piece of work, it's a use of will. I say to myself, next 1 hour, I will stay with this work only. And I have a small Apple watch. I put a soft alarm. If till it rings, I don't get up from that piece. This is use of will. Therefore, the first level is use willpower. That is, discipline yourself in small segments of half an hour or 1 hour and say to yourself, next 1 hour, I'm going to do this work, however unpleasant or boring or whatever it is. And that other thing which may be very attractive, very tempting, will wait. This is willpower. The higher level into which I went in my lecture, the higher level is here and there. or as often as possible, we must look at the mind which is running into the past without condemning it. We must look at that thought, and this is a very special skill. When you look at it carefully, you will find that chasing some memory is actually worthless. That discovery that it is worthless to go behind this past, this memory of the past, gives a blow to that whole process. Otherwise, we were going for those memories because there was somehow a belief that there is something which I can get from it. There is nothing you can get from it. It is worthless. That I should not be telling. Every person should discover for himself that this pursuit of a memory is not worthwhile. So seeing the worthlessness of pursuit of the past or future gives a big blow, and then the mind settles in the present. This is called the higher approach of intelligence. So use will for short-term gains, but use intelligence for long-term lasting gains. So Jagjit Suri has just said Namaskar. Then maybe one or two questions we may take. Time is more or less up. Of course, anyone is free to get going. Yes, Jyoti Varma here. Please ask.
Hari Om Swamiji, can you hear me clear?
Very well, very clearly. Hari Om.
Hari Om. This is more than a question, a comment, a thought came to me when Mr. Kulkarni was talking about the insecure. How do we overcome insecurity? Sometimes we are faced with that situation. What the story of Hanumanji explaining his relationship with Lord Rama comes to me. Especially the insecurity happens when we have to face somebody higher than us in most of the time, and the thought comes from a higher level. There is no difference between me and you. Isn't there a saying that Hanumanji has explains to Lord Rama in 3 ways? From a body level, I am your servant. From a mentally, I am your bhakta, and an intellectual level, we are the same, or you and me are something to that effect. Please correct me if I got it wrong. That thought, the last part comes to me, and at the same time, when I get that thought, I think, does that give arrogance in the mind? Like, am I saying I'm equal to you when I walk into somebody who is much higher than me? So that's as I said, it's a comment and a question. And is that the right analogy? Yeah.
Yeah, it has a bearing on what we are talking. I was using a simple expression, see the larger picture. That finally boils down to this. When you see the larger picture, a lot of things to which you were attached fall off, and you remain just awareness. You just remain as pure consciousness. And as pure consciousness, you are one with Rama. Deha buddhya dasoham, jiva buddhya tvat amshakaha, atma buddhya tvamevaham, iti me nishchitamatihi. It's a shloka. We don't know from where it is, but that shloka is doing the rounds for a long time. You are right, because the connection is Deha Buddhi is where we are attached to a very narrowed down image of ourselves. Jiva Buddhi, again we are attached to a self-description which is more broad-based. And Atma Buddhi is a self-description which is very, very, very broad. Therefore, to that extent, we are free of bias. We are free of boundaries. Image is nothing but boundaries. So that 3 levels, as given in Hanuman's shloka, describing his relation with Rama, have a good connection to what we are talking about. Yeah. Lastly, I would say, when we are in the Atma Buddhi, this desire to become dies. When we are the all-pervasive awareness, what does awareness have to become? Only when we are looking at ourselves in a certain identity. I am a junior clerk. I want to, before retiring, I want to become senior clerk or manager of this office. So I am this junior clerk is one identity. If I am awareness, Atma Buddhi, there is no becoming. So in my lecture, I talked about wanting to become opens the Pandora's box. Wanting to become, unleashes the powers of the past and the future to tyrannize us. In the Atma Buddhi, that's how Kathopanishad describing Atma says, Ishanam Bhuta Bhavyasya. The Atma Tattva is way above Udasina, way above past, present, and future. Jiva Buddhi is somewhere in the middle. Deha Buddhi is so subject, highly subject to this process of change. The body is constantly changing and dying, and the body drops away one day. Subtle body, Jivatma, moves on as per the Hindu belief, Punarjanma and all that. So I guess we have completed. Is anyone left out? Though time is also up. We'll meet after 2 weeks with another interesting topic. Thank you all. Stay home, stay safe. All the best. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Pranam Swamiji.
Hari Om.
Hariom.